whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast, and we have a Jay sighting today. How's it going, man?
I'm back. No. Hey, it's good. It's good to be alive, man. Took care of some business. Now I'm back, and it's good to be back on the show and seeing you, Bo, and your beautiful hairline. It's gorgeous.
All of it missing.
You know what was funny? I went to the barber yesterday to get mine cut, and so I got this little mohawk going, but she's like, your mohawk seems a lot thinner than last time. I'm like, man,
you're like, thanks.
That does not make me feel good. But yeah. So yeah. Anyway, it was good times. Good times.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. It's just part of it. I mean, it was funny because how I ended up cutting mine. Because in person, it wasn't that bad. But on camera, I looked bald anyway. So I'm like, you know what? It's not even worth it.
Yeah, a super long time ago, man, I had a bald head. And I saw myself in a picture one time. And I was like, God, the glare off that thing is ridiculous.
Yep. Happy birthday, Chad.
Then I realized I needed to tan a little bit to make it look better.
Yeah, no, so that is a real thing. That is a real thing. You got to get a little bit of a tan, otherwise your head glows.
Yeah, man, it's good though, man. I don't know how your weather is out there, but man, it's some good weather right now out here in Houston, Bubba.
Yeah, so our weather is super inconsistent. So 2 days ago, it was beautiful. It was 70 degrees and sunny, awesome. Yesterday, it was nice for most of the day, at least here on the north side of Seattle. And then last night, we had a storm roll through, lightning, hail, everything. So it was, but it's nice again this morning. So when you're here in Seattle in the spring, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. It's probably going to change. So, it's nice right now. By the time I'm off the show, it might be raining again.
Have you ever been asleep at night and
generally
thunder goes down and it's so powerful that it wakes you up out of bed, and you can feel the thunder in your body? Have you ever, about maybe 3 or 4 nights ago, we got thunder and it woke me up, and that's exactly how it was. It was horribly crazy. Yeah.
So things like that, I don't wake up for. So that's the thing that's funny. You could drive a freight train through my room. I will sleep through that. If you touch my front door, I'll wake up.
Well, I tell you what, the other night I had Taco Bell. Not a good thing for Jay. Me and Taco Bell, it's good at that moment, but man, my wife hates it when we go to bed. Oh, it's a rough day. So for all of you out there, don't eat Taco Bell. Think you're going to go to bed with your wife and everything's going to be okay. No, you will find your ass on the couch.
And yeah, opening day for most teams. But we might as well kick it off with this one for Chad here. Rodgers has to make a decision.
Yeah, he does.
And so the thing is the Steelers actually kind of alluded to they expect an answer out of him by Sunday. Now, I don't know what that means, but basically they're like, look, you either need to decide, or maybe they're just going to be like, you know what? We'll just go ahead and roll with Mason Rudolph and call it good. Maybe it made it sound like they're tired of waiting, which I understand, but it's it really sounds like the Steelers, just as an organization, are pretty over it. And rightfully so. I mean, I'm over talking about it. Like I'm ready for him to make a decision so that we can just move on.
Yeah. You know what? This guy is in so many ways, reminiscent of Brett Favre.
He's the same guy.
You cannot get Brett Favre to make a damn decision in a reasonable amount of time to save that man's life. And that's exactly what Aaron Rodgers is doing. The difference is that Brett Favre was still still with the organization, with the Packers. This guy's out there roaming around like a free agent, holding everybody hostage. He thought he was going to go to the Vikings, which truthfully would have been the best spot for him.
Well,
I know would have been that same.
That would have completed the Brett Favre arc, because Brett
Oh,
Favre
for
the Jets to the Vikings. Like, it would have been hilarious, because then all he would have had to do is go have one good year with the Vikings, rip off some low income people, and he's there, right? He's there.
But the Vikings would have been different for him than it was for Favre, because he has so many more weapons, offensive line, coaching. There were so many more things in place on that team that I don't know if Favre really had during his tenure.
No, he did. That first year of Brett Favre's time with the Vikings, if he doesn't throw that crossbody interception, that team's going to the Super Bowl.
True. That's true.
I mean, he had an amazing team. He just did, Brett Favre did Brett Favre things. He's like, oh, I could throw this away and it would be fine. Instead, I'm going to chuck it into the middle of the field and it gets picked off, season over.
Exactly. I want to go back to the Steelers thing, because I really feel like if I'm Mike Tomlin, is this really what you want to deal with? You look, at this point, you have had winning seasons with much, much less. You've had
winning seasons with Trubisky and Mason Rudolph. And with just like the land of misfit toys at quarterback, you've been able to figure it out. I don't know why you would want Rodgers off the field stuff involved in this, because you have Rodgers, who's already a head case that's going to throw his guys under the bus if anything goes wrong. But then you have two receivers that have anger management issues in DK Metcalf and George Pickens. So if they're not winning right away, like, that'll be the most toxic locker room. And I'm here for it.
No. I think we're all here for it. But I want to, I want to try to get in the head of Mike. I don't understand this decision that he did, because literally Wilson just now finally signed that 1-year deal with the Giants. He was still on the market up to that point. Why would you want to sit here and wait for a guy who honestly didn't do a whole hell of a lot with the Jets, his holding hostage with the Vikings to make you look like a stepchild or a second place consolation prize? Why would you want to do something like that? Why not just go back, re-sign Wilson? You made it to the playoffs with him. Why now you got DK Metcalf? Why not bring him back and slide in? And I think he would have been a lot happier going that route with Mason Rudolph as a backup, Wilson as your primary. And I think he would have totally done it. Totally. But yet you wait for this clown. I'm sorry, Aaron Rodgers. In my opinion, you're a clown because you're holding everybody hostage. You can't make a damn decision. And you're in dark rooms. I mean, do you got the ayahuasca thinking like, man, do I go to the Giants? Nah. Do I go to the Steelers? Nah. I'm going to wait for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Can I get a refill of my ayahuasca, please?
Pretty much.
What are we doing?
The thing is if I was the GM there, I absolutely would have brought Russ back, right? Like, you have two guys that the main thing they're good at is go balls. It's the one thing Russ likes to throw. Russ also has a connection with DK already. They played together.
Yes.
They have a decent running game. They have a great defense. Like, they have all the things that make Russell Wilson successful. He's got to do a couple of special plays. Otherwise, it's going to be the running game and some deep shots. Your team is set up exactly that way. Like, I don't know why you would do this. But hey, you know what? I think if they can get as many toxic people on there as possible, I think it'll be hilarious. So, when there's a down week in the NFL, we'll get to talk about DK throwing a corner on the ground and Pickens punching someone in the face and Rodgers at a press conference just calling everybody out for no reason. It is set up to be as dysfunctional as it could possibly be.
Yeah, absolutely. And he said, what did he say? Aaron Rodgers said, I'm waiting for the right situation or I'll retire. Well, I tell you, the Steelers is a pretty good spot. They got, like you said a minute ago, Bo, they got a lot of things over there that we all know the Giants didn't have, and you got a hell of a good coach over there.
Yep.
I don't know what more of a situation you want. I would be. I do. At the end of the day, I think he does sign with the Steelers. I think he's just trying to play the prima donna role on the Pat McAfee show and whatever. Yeah. I think he is going to wind up signing with the Steelers. Honestly, I don't think he's going to retire.
There's not a question in my mind. Like, he's going to be a Steeler. Like, it's absolutely going to happen, because basically Rodgers is that guy that has to have everything about him all the time. So he's just making this drawn out thing. I mean, he's coming back. Everybody knows he's coming back. Hell, he knows he's coming back. Like, he's just doing this so he can remain in the headlines the whole time. I don't know. Again, I just hope he does it. I'm tired of talking about it.
Me too, man. Me too.
Because it comes up, a few times a week because they're like, is he going to decide? And it's like, who cares? Just either play or don't.
Yeah. What would happen? How crazy would it be because I really feel like Tomlin has a lot on the line with this, more so than anybody else, because the one thing that he's always had for job security, not that the Pittsburgh Steelers just go out and fire coaches willy-nilly, like we all know that. I mean, they don't. We went from Bill Cowher to Tomlin, and there's been so much span of time in there. People went through grade school and college during this time period.
So here's a fun fact for you. The Panthers have gone through more coaches in the last 6 years than the Steelers have since they became a team.
Isn't that crazy? That's nuts. No, seriously, that's nuts. Now, but here's the thing, though. One thing that Tomlin has always been able to justify his existence there is that, like you said, he's had winning seasons every time. That's good justification. So my thing is, what if you bring in Aaron, and for whatever reason you have a losing season? How is that going to get played out?
Well, so here's the thing. Does that fall at the feet of Tomlin, or does that fall at the feet of your GM bringing in all these toxic players? I feel like that has to fall on the GM a bit, because they're the ones that go and acquire the guys. Like, Tomlin probably has input, obviously, but the GM is the one that closes that deal. Like, if you're that GM, and even if my coach is like, yeah, I want these guys, and I'm looking at this potential locker room dumpster fire, I'm like, yeah, what about no? Right? Like, I mean, the only thing that would have added to it is if they would have went Diggs. Imagine if they went and got Diggs too.
Oh, God.
3 just absolute head cases as receivers would be hilarious.
By the way, Frankie Cruz Jr., for out there, I still think that's going to be the best thing ever. The fact the Patriots got Diggs. I can't wait to see that explode. But as I regress, I just feel like that when we talk about the GM or the coach and who gets fired, I think that's going to go back to those backdoor conversations that we're not privy to. For example, if Tomlin says, no, we're going to wait if he's telling the GM, we're going to wait for Aaron, this is what I want, then it could fall on him, right? If the GM is pushing for it, like you said, and Tomlin's like, I don't know, man, I'm on the fence on this one, then it would definitely fall on the GM. I think with ownership, it's going to fall in those backdoor conversations that they're having as to who's pushing for it and who's not pushing for it.
Well, I mean, you got to keep in mind, though, Tomlin signed his extension last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like he's at the end of his contract. He just signed a new one. So, and I think I can't remember exactly. I want to say it was 3, might be 4-year extension. So, I mean, as the ownership group, if you're going to fire him, you got to be ready to just eat that contract, because coaches' contracts are fully guaranteed. That's not something the Steelers really do.
No, it's not. No. And that's what I'm saying. Even if Aaron goes out there and poops the bed and they have a losing season, Tomlin's going to play out that contract. That's just the way the Steelers operate. They're going to play out that contract, and then they'll deal with either A, bringing him back, or B, letting him go at the end of his contract. But
well, no, and that's what I mean. He's going to be there for the next couple of years, no matter what.
Easily.
So,
yeah.
I don't know why you would trade Pickens. If you're going to have, since you have DK and Pickens, right? You signed DK to the what was it? It was a 4-year, 150. I think.
Yeah, that's about
crazy money for sure. But then you have Pickens, who's basically the same guy, just younger, right? Like, neither one of them run a great route tree. They're both go ball guys. They can win a contested catch, but they'll drop easy stuff. Like, they're literally the same guy. They get in fights with defenders all the time. They get after the play penalties. Like, you literally have 2 guys that are the same human for some reason. So do I think they trade him this year? No, right? Because he's still on his rookie deal. Next year, maybe, because you already paid DK. So maybe you do. I haven't looked at exactly what DK's contract actually is, like what his guarantee is, and if there's outs on it. That is something I got to look further into. But for this year, they're going to run with those 2 guys. I can't imagine you'd bring in DK. You still have Pickens on a rookie deal. I don't know why you'd get rid of him, because anybody that you get for the slot is going to eat now, because you got 2 guys that can clear out a defense.
So it looks like earlier this month, wide receiver requested a trade from the Seahawks. Okay, ultimately, I think he was he inked a 5-year, $150 million deal with the Steelers in exchange for a 2025 second-round pick. It doesn't say
Yep.
guaranteed, and it doesn't say opt-outs, but it's definitely 5 years at 150.
Yeah, so that 5th year, is just a void year. Like you know that one is just so they could stretch out the cap hit. But because as I recall, it was basically like a 4-year, like the 4 years of it were actual money. I think a lot of it was actually front loaded. But again, I don't know the exact.
I have it right here, Bo. It's $60 million guaranteed signing bonus plus 2025 salary plus 2026 salary. So you got $60 million guaranteed.
Yeah. Okay.
And it looks like in 2027 he gets a roster bonus of 6.5, and in 28 he gets a roster bonus of 5, and then in 29 he gets a roster bonus of 5.
Yeah. So it's actually a 3-year.
Yeah.
So it's actually a 3-year. They wrote it for 5 to stretch out the cap. We got the Beards in the house. Nice.
Hey, but it doesn't talk about opt-outs, so I don't know if he has any opt-outs in that or no trade clause or any of that kind of craziness. But
so the team will. Anytime it's written where there's a roster bonus, right? Generally, those are years that they have the opportunity to get off a contract. So,
interesting.
So yeah, that essentially sounds like it's mostly a 3-year contract.
Right. Interesting, man. I wonder. The Steelers moved on from Najee Harris. Now I think he's over there with the Chargers. I wonder what Jay Beard is. Hey, man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. I worked really hard conditioning this thing today, so I appreciate that.
That's right. We got Gandalf in the house.
But no, and I haven't looked at their depth chart. Do they have anybody behind him? Or did they bring anybody that came in to replace Najee? Or do you think they're going to wind up looking at the draft to pick up possibly a Najee Harris?
I'm going with the draft. Yeah, because free agent wise, you shall not pass. At least we're all nerds together. No, I would imagine they're going to address it in the draft. There are some good running backs in this draft. When you're looking at this draft as a whole, there's a lot of offensive line, defensive line. There's pretty good running backs. Where your light is receivers, and your light at quarterback, obviously. So if you need a running back or you need offense, defensive line, this is the draft for you.
Right. You know what, Bo, as a man who's played the game, I want to take a step back. I want to go back to the Stephon Diggs real quick, if I may. It was reported out that, I guess, I don't know if it was Vrabel that said it or it was just mentioned in an article I read, but they didn't bring in Devontae Adams. They didn't bring in DK. It was linked out that they felt like they were going to be too combative or too strong-willed for the ball for Drake May to handle.
Sure.
So they go, and I'm like, okay, if that's your thought process, okay. But why in the hell then do you go out and bring in the worst cancer ever in Stephon Diggs and give him the contract? And this is the guy who is coming off an ACL injury, and you still don't know where he's at in his recovery time. If he can make the season opener, if he's going to be delayed in the season opener, but you pass up on DK and Devontae for this.
So this one's interesting to me, right? Because he's 31. He's had, he leaves the Vikings as a cancer. He leaves the Bills as a cancer. He doesn't really do anything with Houston, right? Because he got hurt right away. I would be really interested in seeing how his contract is put together too. When that came through, the details weren't out there, but I would bet that this is also another very front-loaded, type of situation. Diggs will be happier there because he is the only target. Right? Like, they don't have any receiver weapons at all, so he's gonna be the guy. So, and he's going to like that. The one thing that he's proven through his whole career is he doesn't care about winning. Like, winning doesn't matter to him. He wants his stats.
Oh,
right?
for
He
sure.
wants
Matter
his
of fact, yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Stephon Diggs is number 7 in the league in yardage, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, that sounds right. But the thing is you watched him have meltdowns in games they were winning, right?
Yeah.
Games they were winning because he didn't touch the ball enough. And then he was happy in games where they lost because he got his numbers. So if he's going to the Pats, that actually works out for him because he is going to get all the touches because he's the only weapon they got. And so realistically, it's probably going to kind of work because they don't have anyone to throw to. And that is exactly the thing. And he's proven it.
Yeah, he is selfish. He is very selfish.
But he's going to a situation where he can be because there's no one else to throw to.
Right.
So
let me ask you though, but is it weird though that they're trying to keep those types of players, even though they really didn't at the end of the day, but is it weird that they wanted to try to keep those kinds of players away from Drake May? Like, what is it about Drake May? They feel like he's not mentally strong enough to handle that? Because if so, that's kind of a negative knock on May.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far. So the thing is when you're looking at, when you're looking at those different receivers, right, is you have Adams, DK, Diggs. Okay. You're not a good team. Adams will be crying immediately, even if he gets his numbers, because you're not winning, right? He wants to go to a winner before he leaves. DK doesn't run a good route tree. Like he runs go balls. That's kind of it. Like his route running ability isn't awesome. So that's not great for a young receiver because a lot of your passes aren't deep down the field. It's, kind of mid-level type of stuff. Right. So when you're looking at these 3 receivers, I would have also gone with Diggs because he doesn't care if you win. He just wants his numbers. Everybody else wants all of it. Right. So, with DK and with Adams, they would have been complaining immediately when they're, 3 and 6. They're going to be losing their mind and talking to the media and being a problem. Whereas Diggs is like, I don't know, I got 100 yards, I'm cool.
Yeah, because and again, if their thought process is they don't want a wide receiver 1 going to May demanding the ball, this, that, or the other. Well, I always remember the words of Jimmy McGinty in the replacements that winners always want the ball, and I don't know any true wide receiver 1 that doesn't want the ball.
Yeah, so it's different though. So if you have a wide receiver 1 that's a team player, right? And in a win, they didn't touch the ball a lot. They're going to be fine. Now they'll be frustrated in a loss if they didn't touch the ball a lot and be like, hey, I need the ball. Like I can help us win. But in a win, if they're a team player and they didn't get the ball a lot, they're like, yeah, I mean, we won. Like a win's a win. So, it's a mindset difference. You can be a wide receiver 1 and not be a problem. Right. I mean, of course you want the ball.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I totally get that. I guess the other situation I was looking at that I thought was interestingly enough to me was when the Cincinnati Bengals, who have struggled to get back to the Super Bowl since they appeared there.
Yeah, it's because they don't play defense.
They give Jamar Chase the bag for wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Then they turn around and give, another huge bag to T. Higgins when they could have just franchised him.
So they didn't. So on paper,
so they made him the highest. I think isn't he the highest paid wide receiver 2? I mean, he got wide receiver 1 money almost.
So look up that contract right now.
Okay.
Because the money he's guaranteed is worse than the tag. Like if he'd have got franchise tagged, he would have made more money. Like
I'll take a word on that. But yeah, I got you.
His contract is worded so ridiculous. I don't have it in front of me, but I mean, like it is the weirdest signing because again, on paper, you're like, oh yeah, he got like 100 and what was that? Like
112? I think it was 112 million.
Yeah, something like that, right? And but then when you actually look at the numbers, you're like, oh, none of that is guaranteed. Like that is really crazy. But what it does do is it's a big cap hit because he has the potential to make that money. And yeah, they're not going to worry about defense. And I mean, yeah, you can win some regular season games that way. You're not winning a Super Bowl that way. Like you do have to have some semblance of defense.
So it looks like he signed a 4-year, $115 million is what T. Higgins signed.
Yeah, 115. That's what I thought.
And it looks like his cap hit is $24 million in 25. The 2025 cash is $35 million, and career earnings $31 million. But the contract it says on here, yeah, but it's 4 years, $115 million. Average salary of 28.7. No signing bonus. And then it says GTD. I don't know what GTD means at sign.
That's guaranteed at sign.
Okay, so guaranteed at sign was $30 million. Total guaranteed was $40 million. And then he's a free agent in 2029.
Yeah, but the cap is like 20.
You're right. No, you're right. Because I was just thinking, because I think is it 31 million or is it, you said it, what is the franchise tag at for wide receiver?
I don't know offhand, but I mean, when you look at it,
right.
He doesn't have a no trade. He doesn't have a lot of guaranteed money. Didn't get a signing bonus of any kind. Doesn't have roster bonuses. And so when you're looking at this, most of that is really incentive-based type stuff, right? Like it's going to be on yardage and touchdowns and stuff like that. I mean, he signed a bad contract. Like if he actually achieves all of them, sure, he can make a ton of money. But the downside is huge. Like he probably could have got a better contract anywhere.
Right. So let me ask you this, though. There's a lot of people that say, there's two ways. A lot of people will build a team up from the inside out. They'll start off in the trenches, then they'll go to the wide receivers and so forth. But it seems like the Bengals are kind of doing it outside in because I have not really seen them. They addressed the wide receivers great. Okay, you got two really good wide receivers. But what have you really done on that trench line? Because it takes 10 people. I always had that saying. It takes 10 people to get a wide receiver the ball.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So what I'm concerned that they haven't really done anything on that trench line. And I think we know how important the trenches are looking at the Eagles and what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl, how impressive both sides of the trenches were for them.
Well, the thing that's funny for the Bengals is they actually lost their best guy on the offensive line.
Yeah.
He left in free agency.
Yeah.
And so, I guess they're going heavy in the draft because they haven't got anything in the door. Their defense has been abysmal and their offense just got worse. So you have, basically they have two Ferraris in the garage, but no gas.
Yes.
You're just like, oh, cool. I'll be able to start it up. I'll be able to get down my driveway. But as soon as I need to hit the street, it's a wrap.
Or maybe they bought a Ferrari, but couldn't afford the insurance.
Pretty much. They'll be able to drive it a little bit, but it's not going to get you where you need to go.
Joe Burrow. I know Joe Burrow is happy that Jamar Chase is still with him because that's his college boy. And I know he's happy on that respect. But if I'm Joe Burrow, am I a little concerned that I'm going to be running for my life in some places?
He's
trying to get them to rock.
So this is why I have a lot of concern for this team. Obviously, they have a crazy amount of money wrapped up in the offense. In fact, I have a fun graphic for that. Let's do that.
Okay.
We'll show you exactly how stupid this is. So these three guys have a cap hit this year, $115.1 million. The entire defense, all of it, $79 million.
That's crazy. That's nuts.
You are gonna lose games.
Almighty, man.
Basically, when you're watching the Bengals this year, this is 100% going to be a bunch of games that are 39-35, and you'll have put up 35 points and lose.
Yeah.
And it's just because you can't stop anybody. So the two times you get stopped is how you're going to lose games because the other team's never going to get stopped because you have traffic cones out there.
Because when I saw what they were doing, now I didn't see this graphic. I didn't realize the disparity between those three guys and the defense. I guess that just slams up even more home. What I'm thinking is, I don't see the Bengals being a true contender. They might do okay. But
and then the other concern there is, they don't have a great offensive line. every other year since Burrow's come into the league, he's gotten hurt. He had an MVP caliber year last year. That sure sounds like he's going to get hurt this year. Now, I'm not wishing that on him, but if you look at the pattern, he only plays every other season. This could be that year.
I mean, you got to imagine his knees are not in the best of shape because I know he's had them repaired quite a few times since he's been in the league.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The biggest thing is it's just there's a track record now. And so at this point, you're just like, man, I feel like he's probably going to get hurt.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I hope he doesn't.
Of course.
It's a fun team to watch because they put up points like nothing else. Yeah. But when you figure you had a guy that was in the conversation for MVP, you had a Triple Crown winner receiver, and you miss the playoffs, that lets you know you don't play defense.
Right.
Just at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like two teams in this free agent period that we've just kind of went through. I thought two teams really, really did well. Number one, I thought Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson, his effect on that team already addressing the offensive line, bringing in Tooney and I forget the other guy that they brought in. They brought in those two offensive tackles.
A lot of experience too. They changed the entirety of their interior offensive line. Bears made some moves.
Yeah, they did. And I think that's going to be well, Caleb Williams should have a much, much better time being able to get the ball off. And it's really going to see what Caleb Williams was. Because I know there's, obviously Jay Daniels had a magical season. It's almost like CJ Stroud 2.0. And I wonder if Caleb Williams in his sophomore season can be 3.0. Because I feel like now he's got some good weapons over there. He's got a good offensive line. He got good coaching. I really expect a lot, or I hope to expect a lot out of this Chicago Bears to the point where I think they might move up in the rankings a little bit, especially with J.J. McCarthy, which is another one. That was the other question I wanted to ask you as a football guy. They let Sam Darnold go. Sure. Now he's with your boys out there in Seattle, which, and they can tell me how you feel about that as well. Since Gino knows what the Raiders. But also, do you think that now they're hanging everything on JJ? They turned down Aaron. They said, we're going to roll with JJ.
Yeah.
What do you think about all this?
Well, I mean, you kind of, at some point you have to see what you have in him, right? Yeah. And so I actually don't mind the fact that they're going to roll with JJ. Like, the team is set up. I mean, that team just made Darnold look like an MVP candidate.
They sure did.
Right. And so the biggest question is you really don't know what you have in JJ McCarthy because, he was part of that Michigan national championship team. But that championship team didn't run through the quarterback. Like, it was a running team, and they didn't ask him to do a lot. He didn't have to throw magical balls or run around a lot or anything like that. So it's going to be interesting to see, what it is that, what it is that becomes. I think he can be a very good quarterback in this league. We just didn't see him have to do that much with Michigan.
Right.
So,
they were too busy stealing signs. But
which, to be fair, it's not a knock on him. Right.
Yeah.
It's just the team wasn't set up in a way where he had to do stuff. So we don't really know what he can be. He might be amazing. We don't know yet. Yeah. So, that's a to be determined kind of thing. But just that particular team didn't need him to do anything special because that's not the way they ran the offense.
So now, how do you feel about Darnold? I'm imagining you're feeling pretty good about it, but Darnold now being with Seattle, taking over where Gino left off. How do you feel about that move?
So, it's interesting. They wanted Gino wanted 45.
Right.
And Darnold got the Baker Mayfield contract. So it's the 3-year, $100 million, like it's exact same contract.
Yeah.
So I don't hate it as long as they address the interior offensive line, which they haven't done yet. Right. They brought in a couple of depth pieces, but they haven't really addressed that interior offensive line. Darnold can throw the ball. So that's not the problem. He just doesn't do well if there's heavy pressure, which, if you're looking at our offensive line, was bottom 5 over the last, 5 years. So that's a problem. Moving on from DK, that's something I've been talking about for a year and a half, is he has too much downside to his upside, right? He doesn't run great routes. He has a tendency to have drive killing penalties after the play, lots of unsportsmanlike conduct stuff. And the problem with that is it's gotten worse every year. So if you look at his penalty count from when he was a rookie to today, the penalty numbers have gone up every year, which means he's not learning, right? He's just leaning into the fact that he's out there trying to be a menace. And I'm fine with that if you do it before the whistle, because you can get away with a lot of that. As soon as the whistle blows and you continue shoving guys, that's a flag every time.
Every
15
time.
yards, like that absolutely kills drives. So the other thing is DK was a $31 million cap hit. It doesn't really make sense. So then you look at Lockett, also a $31 million cap hit. JSN is our number one target. So you'd have $62 million in your number 2 and number 3 wide receiver.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. So moving on from those two guys absolutely made all the sense in the world. So then you bring in Cooper Kupp, which, Rob put up here, 1 year guaranteed money, very team friendly. And he is Tyler Lockett, right? He runs his routes very similarly. So
at a cheaper price.
Transition. He's a little bit younger. I think he's 31, if I remember right. And I think Lockett is 33, something like that.
And it's about $20 million a year cheaper.
Exactly. Significantly cheaper.
I think it was like $10 million, I think was his average, or $11 million, something, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was nothing.
It wasn't too much.
Yeah, it was nothing. So then you go to bringing in MVS, right? The benefit to have an MVS is he is a speed guy. He runs a 4.37, so he's not quite as fast as DK, but I mean, you're talking 0.03, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
Yeah.
So, and he has similar issues. He'll drop some of the easy ones. He'll win a contested ball, but he's fast, so he can stretch a defense. But you're looking at $5.5 million versus $31 million for basically the same guy, and doesn't get all the penalties. So I don't mind that move. But this all hinges on the fact that they can fix the interior of the offensive line, because you can have the best outside guys you can find, but if you can't get them the ball, it doesn't matter.
And that's a very, very good point. And I guess the other team that I felt like really, made some good moves, and it wasn't really so much that they brought people in. It's just the Houston Texans. They solidified Stingley. Obviously, Stingley was really good in the secondary for Houston last year, and then they gave Hunter that big, was it 1 year? I think I'm on 1 year, $35 million deal, where it still helps keep that second, or that defense in good shape. I really expect to see some good stuff, I think, out of Houston this year. How do you feel about Houston and what you expect out of them?
Yeah, I expect them to bounce back. I mean, you guys created some of your own problems. And honestly, that's what Caleb Williams did too, there was too much noise out of your quarterbacks in the offseason. So you had yours going on talk shows and talking bad about defenses they're going to see twice a year. You can't do that.
Wow.
Like, the last thing you want to do is give professional athletes a reason to circle you on the schedule, right? You're always looking for something to help get you up, because you're already prepared. Like, being prepared is part of the job. But if you have something where you feel slighted and you got that little extra motivation, you can't go out there and give guys that, especially when you're running your mouth all off season. And Caleb Williams did something very similar, right? Where he's going on, he's like, I'm going to be a legend. We're not going to pump the ball, or, all of this stuff. And it's like, yeah, other teams are like, okay, I got you, kid. Like,
Yeah.
His own teammates were like, dude, you need to shut up.
Yeah. And I asked you about Houston because I was talking with one of my other podcasting friends, and he is obviously an Indianapolis guy. And I said, for some reason, they really feel like that Indianapolis Colts will make it into the wild card. And I don't know, man, but I'm not a big Daniel Jones fan, or even Richardson for that matter. And the fact that you got a quarterback battle between those two and you don't know, I mean, that tells me everything I need to know about it. I just don't see Indianapolis being truly competitive.
Well, I mean, the benefit to the Colts is they are in a division that isn't very good. So,
right.
So the opportunities there. Their offense is actually set up better for Daniel Jones. One thing that I said soon as Richardson was drafted was he was overdrafted.
Yeah.
Like where I had him is a second round guy, maybe third round guy, right? When you watched his tape, he only started for a year, had a couple of starts prior to that one. They went 6-6 as I remember, and wildly inconsistent. Right? I mean, just didn't have command of his throws. Then he gets into his pro day, throws that like 80-yard bomb, and all of a sudden he's the 4th overall pick. I was like, oh, you guys messed up because you guys got really excited about a really long throw in a choreographed situation with no defense, no pads, and just decided to ignore an entire year of actual tape where he's playing against other humans.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to ignore that. And I understand athletically, huge upside, right? Huge upside. Yeah. The problem is being able to throw the ball is kind of an important piece of being a quarterback. Now, when you look at Daniel Jones, I'm not a Daniel Jones fan either. But when you look at the way that the Colts are built, they have an offensive line that can build a pocket. Anthony Richardson doesn't like to throw from the pocket. He will run himself into trouble. So the way that offensive line is set up is actually probably better suited for Daniel Jones, which feels really weird coming out of my face. But,
I know.
I would not be surprised if Daniel Jones wins that QB1 role there.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the guys that have had success, it was, Dalton and Flacco, right? Guys that are statues. Like they can stand behind that line and they can deliver the ball. And so Daniel Jones is that guy. He's obviously more mobile, but yeah, I mean, all of a sudden when you're seeing the guys that had success behind that line, you're like, oh yeah, Daniel Jones could actually win that job.
I mean, they do have much better pieces to offer Jones than what he was offered, at other stops. So in terms of like, you got Jonathan Taylor running the ball, and then you got what happened?
That's a nice way to say the Giants are not very good. I got you.
Okay. That's exactly what I was saying. I just didn't know if you caught on to that. Okay. But no, I just feel like, look, Daniel Jones, this is your opportunity to shine. You don't get many opportunities, to try to get that starting spot and have a good shot at it.
By no means am I saying the Colts are a great team, because I'm definitely
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they have more to offer him in terms of proving himself. Because I feel like he's in a prove it time right now. I'm either Daniel Jones going to be good, or I'm Daniel Jones exactly who you thought I was.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely his opportunity to be like, hey, I can be a starter in this league.
Right.
Or he's going to show I'm going to be a backup until I retire.
Pretty much. And I think that's very well said. That's exactly what I was trying to say. You just said it much better.
Yeah, no, the Colts will be an interesting watch this year. But no, I mean, I do think they have a chance because at the end of the day, the division isn't great.
Yeah.
Like it's not a powerhouse of a division.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, speaking of, because I know there's going to be a lot of running backs in this draft. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. I mean, if you don't get the top two, trust me, in the second round, you're going to have more than enough opportunities to grab one. Do you think it was a mistake to let Restrepo run at that pro day and sit? Because you saw he put up a 4.86.
That was ridiculously bad.
Yes. And I wonder if his agent should have talked to say, you know what, Restrepo, let's just sit this out and take our chances. Because if you go out there and run that 4.86, you're damn sure going to be in the 5th round if you're lucky.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. Like, you have to imagine his game speed is faster than that. Like, you have to think. All I can figure is he had a terrible launch. That's all I can guess, because basically the way they clock those is as soon as your body moves, clock starts. So if you
Okay.
have like a rock back step or anything like that, it can absolutely mess up your timing. So all I can figure is he just had like, I didn't watch it, right? I don't
Yeah.
watch pro days. I think they're stupid. Uh, well, I mean,
No, I get it. I totally
so
get it.
for the people watching, why I think they're dumb is I know when it's going to happen. I get to pick the guys I'm throwing to. There's no defense, right? So I get to choreograph these. I get to practice them for a couple of weeks with these guys. Like if I got to do that, I could go make a pro day look good right now.
Yeah.
At 44, I could make that look decent.
Yeah.
Because I get weeks to practice with the guys I want to throw to.
That's true.
I would hope that looks good. So I think they're kind of dumb. If you're in this capacity, it makes sense to go to them because you can talk to scouts and whatever. But as far as like actually putting any weight behind a pro day, like who cares? Like I should hope you can throw to your friend in an open field.
but you know what? The flip side of that pro day at Miami was Cam Ward obviously had a good pro day. The Titans were out there. They were studying him up to the point where even the GM was talking with Cam Ward. And the way Cam Ward came off is he felt like and the impression he got from the GM was that he was going to be drafted at 1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything points to him being drafted 1 by the Titans because they've already shown you that they don't love Levis.
Right.
Right. Captain Mayo is not going to be their QB1 moving forward. So, he just hasn't played well enough. Now, I don't think all of that's his fault. It's not a good team. That's why they have the number 1 pick.
Right.
But
which really puts it into where I see, I guess where I'm going with that is now you look at the Giants, right? They brought in Winston, then they brought in Wilson. So now they got those 2 guys kind of set there a little bit.
Yep.
You gotta think, because I was thinking, if Cam Ward's going 1, you know that Shedeur is going to be number 2 quarterback off the list.
Sure.
Do you still think it's looking that the Giants will take him, or what spot do you see Shedeur going in?
So you don't take if you're the Giants based on what it is you signed, right? Because you have the Titans are 1, the Browns are 2,
right?
Giants are 3,
right?
I would bet the Giants take Hunter.
Okay,
right, because then you have a second receiver option on the opposite of Neighbors, right? But you also have a defensive back. So the way I would draft him is I would draft him as a corner because I think he plays corner better than he is as a receiver. But I bet you put packages in where he's your wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 option.
Right.
Just because he's fast, he can get open. Like he can play the position, but I would draft him as a DB. But you don't go bring in a quarterback if you have Wilson and Winston. I mean, that basically made it look like you're out on quarterbacks this year, or at least you're going to wait until the later rounds when guys like Milroe and Ewers and Dart and, those kinds of guys start to come up, which is, probably 3rd round. So, I mean, do you waste the time trying to get one of the top 2 guys that honestly a year ago probably wouldn't even be 1st rounders?
Right.
No, I feel like you're overspending. So in this scenario, you go get Travis Hunter, he's going to be that guy. Right. And then you wait to pick up your potential guy for the future in the, 3rd round.
So so based on that, which I totally get, the reason why I was asking that, there's a lot of mock drafts that actually had Shedeur going to the Giants. But now that they made the move that they made, they really, like you said, they really don't need that. So I'm kind of curious now, where do you think Shedeur goes from here? Like what team do you think will draft him?
So he could potentially fall all the way to the Saints because remember his dad said he would keep him away from certain teams.
Oh yeah.
The Browns at 2. Is one of those teams that his dad's going to be like, yeah, you're not going to go play there. Like we will pull the Eli Manning. You're just not going to go. So if you look at this list, right? So you have the Titans taking Cam Ward. That one feels like it's predetermined. The Browns, who knows what they're going to do? They should probably actually grab an offensive tackle, but who knows? The Giants probably take Hunter. The Patriots have their quarterback. They have May, right? The Jags, they have Lawrence. Raiders just paid Geno. So, they're probably not going to go draft Shador there. Maybe they do, but probably not. The Jets just signed Fields. And, it's not like the Jets are good at cultivating quarterback talent anyway. So
I think that was also one of the teams that Dion said that he wouldn't go to as well, I think.
Yeah,
I think it was the Jets and the Browns.
And you shouldn't. If you watch, Geno, Darnold, Wilson, like they have a tendency to ruin top quarterbacks. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to go there either.
They do.
The Panthers have Bryce Young, right? Yeah. So they don't need one. So then you get to the Saints and you have Derek Carr, who is I think on the last year of his contract.
Yeah.
I mean, so if he doesn't go 2 and somebody doesn't move up, right? Because I mean, anything can happen. But if it were to go down in the order that it's currently in, he could fall all the way to the Saints.
That totally makes a lot of sense. It's interesting to me enough. I look at the Cowboys and the way we're constructed, and Cooper Rush is gone. Our backup quarterback, his career, which you might as well, you might as well say we don't have a backup quarterback, honestly, because Trey Lance isn't there. He's out in the Canadian Football League at this point.
Yeah. Saskatchewan Roughriders. Here we go. His dad
he's out there with the Canucks doing his thing. My thing is, if I'm Jerry, which by the way, Jerry, I'm really glad that you never took a chance on Stephon Diggs. There was a conversation at one point where Stephon and Trey were talking. They were saying, "Hey, we can make this work." I'm glad you never did that. That's one thing that could have.
I think that could have worked though.
I get what you're saying. I get it.
He probably could have tempered his attitude a little bit to play with his brother for a year, right? I would have entertained giving him a 1-year deal because that would still be a prove it deal. He'd have to actually try.
Right.
Be like, hey, we'll give you.
I'm surprised he didn't do it though, because that's a very Jerry move. It would have been a very Jerry move to bring in Stephon. I'm just saying that would have been the fact that he didn't do what I thought prototypically he would do. That surprises me. It's the first time Jerry Jones surprised me.
You know why though, right?
Is it the cap?
Dak hits your cap for $90 million. He is a third of your cap this year.
Yeah.
You're not paying anybody.
Thank you, Jerry. I so love you.
I mean, to give you perspective of how just asinine that is, right. Dak will hit for $90 million. Josh Allen and Lamar combined hit for 89.
Yeah. So let that marinate for a minute.
You're talking 4 MVPs and like lots of playoff experience versus your guy that has 1 playoff win.
But look, I've been fighting that battle for a long time, and it's always the same answer, which I totally get. It's what the market dictates. Doesn't matter if you're better than this, because we all know. I mean, look where the contract is of Patrick Mahomes. He's got all these Super Bowl wins, but he's not the highest. It always just goes by not your talent, but you know what I mean.
Mahomes is an outlier though, because Mahomes is doing exactly what Brady did. He has enough off the field money that he's taking less and restructuring and all of that. Like Brady was only the top paid guy one time in his whole career.
Yeah.
And then after that, he took discounts because he wanted to win. And that's what Mahomes is doing now. But when you're looking at these other guys, they're getting whatever they can get, which, fair enough. But it has to do with the way they structured these contracts that, they pushed all this stuff down the road. And this is just the year that, they're going to have to pay. I mean, that's why the Niners are kicking all their players out also, is they kept kicking contracts down the road. And even John Lynch came out and said, hey, like eventually you have to do a reset. And this is their reset year. They're like, okay, we got to start clearing our books off. And unfortunately for you, that's the Cowboys. Like you have a quarterback that's going to barbecue your cap. You're not going to get to pay anybody.
Absolutely.
So
that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping Dallas, at least in rounds 3 or 4, if Ewers is available or if Howard is available, maybe they'll grab those guys, as a backup.
Ewers is interesting. Ewers is such a weird, like, had he stayed healthy, he'd be a first-round pick.
Right.
But because he's been
hurt, the Georgia game really destroyed any chance of being when he got taken out of that Georgia game for Arch Manning.
Yeah,
that was a huge knock on him.
No, I mean, but it's so weird, right? Because you got, like, had he stayed healthy, probably a first-round pick. He's been injured. He had the Georgia game, could fall as far as like late third, early fourth. Like, he literally has a 4-round like spot where he could fall.
True.
Like, him on the draft board is going to be very interesting to watch, because if you're looking at, if he's healthy potential, he could go early in the second round. But if you're a GM that's looking at, this guy's hurt like all the time, though, not that'll keep you from getting drafted. I mean, Tua exists,
right?
But yeah, I mean, it's just like, oh man, he has such the widest range of where he could get drafted.
Right. I want to go back real quick. You mentioned Cleveland possibly taking, or should possibly take, an offensive tackle, but they're at that number 2 spot. Would it be almost beneficial for them to trade back, pick up 100%. A few more picks, and still get that offensive tackle? I would think. Would you? And do you think when the draft goes down, do you think that could be a possibility? Like, would that be a likely scenario?
So if I was the GM for the Browns, I would probably move back. Like, I would likely do that. Wow. And then also, if I'm the Giants, if somebody were to move up to 2 and then take Hunter, if I'm the Giants, I would also move back.
True.
Because you're not trying to solve your quarterback problem today, right? Because, I mean, they are definitely moving forward with Russ as your number 1, because Dable wants to stay employed. So they can't have another bad year. Right. So if the Browns were to move off and somebody went up and got Hunter, then I would expect the Giants to move off also, because the things they need, they could get deeper. So, like, if you are picking from 10th to like 45th, when you're looking at the offensive line, defensive line candidates, there's not a huge drop off between 10 and 45. Like,
right.
So you don't have to fall in love with a guy like in years past where there's 4 good linemen. This is a stacked draft when it comes to linemen. So you don't have to overspend for a guy. You can let one of these guys fall to you. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind dropping back, especially if the Browns if they were like, oh, we want Shador, and then Dion's like, yeah, but that's not going to happen. Yeah, I would move off that spot.
Yeah, Cowboys are drafted 12.
Yeah.
We got Sanders from Carolina as our running back. We also got Williams from the Broncos. Neither one of these running backs do I think is exciting. I would have rather brought back Rico Dowdle, to be honest with you. But I don't know if they could afford him at that point. Maybe that's why they didn't bring him back. I don't know. But at this point, I mean, I don't think Genty is going to be available. I think Genty will be gone by 10. I'm looking at, what does Dallas do? Should Dallas maybe trade back for Judkins out of Ohio State? I don't know.
No way. Wait till late second round. Get Scatabo.
I hate you.
He's at least entertaining to watch. Right? Like, he's at least fun to watch.
Yeah, no, Scatabo is very fun to watch. And I like his tenacity a little bit. He does have that grit.
Hey, he runs angry.
He
runs angry. Like,
I'm almost, what you say that doesn't really actually make me upset. I might actually buy into that. Yeah.
Well, especially because at 12, you could get one of the top offensive linemen, which you guys need again.
But our trenches are horrible.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's
on both sides of the trenches is horrible.
Well, 100% that's true. But I mean, at this point, you guys need to protect Dak, since he's going to cost a third of your cap.
We can't go through another year relying on Greer or whoever it is that they decide to bring in to be a backup. We can't do that again. That's horrible. Oh my God, it was so horrible. So I definitely offensive tackle, guard, wherever they feel is best available in terms of performance. Yeah, I would. And then at some point, you got to look for another defensive end. I don't think. I mean, Lauren. I mean, we just lost D-Loss. He's gone. Not that really. I'll be honest with you. I think D-Long went to Seattle. Guys, I think you overpaid for that, man. He only got 3.5 sacks. He's only had 2 seasons his entire career that was double-digit sacks, and that was 2017, 2018. Every year after that,
he doesn't.
Maybe 4.
So the thing is he's not the number one edge, though. Like, he's going to be coming from the other side, so he's not going to be drawing the double teams. Right. So, no, honestly, I think it'll be good. Plus, it's also a team-friendly deal. When you look at how it's constructed, it's actually really friendly for the Seahawks. So they're not really buried in his contract. I get what you're saying, though. Expensive for his age, but when you look at the guarantees, it's actually really not a bad contract. In fact, they're really only tied to him for the first year. So
that's going to be good for you, because if he comes up and just gives you 3 or 4 sacks, I mean,
that's all you need, right? Like, if you can get everybody getting 3 or 4 sacks all of a sudden over the course of the year, you put up a lot of sacks.
Yeah, but how often does that ever happen where everybody gives you 3 or 4? I mean,
well, usually when you don't have one guy doing it, that's usually how it works.
Well, I mean, unless you got a Myles Garrett or TJ Watt or something of that nature.
That's what I mean, though. Unless you have like one dude that's getting all of them, it usually does get kind of spread out. So, but if he can get 3 or 4, like that'd be exactly what you need, because at least he's getting back there, which means there's a stat I look at way more than sacks, and that's quarterback hurries.
Yeah.
So sacks are great. They're flashy. It makes for good TV. Quarterback hurries means you're disrupting their game all the time. It's also what gets you interceptions. Yeah. Right? Because you're moving your guy off his spot.
Or fumbles or any of that, honestly. Yeah.
Exactly. So I much prefer quarterback hurries over sacks, because you can have 3 sacks in a game, but that was the 3 good pressures you had.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying is you're right. It's not the flashy thing, but then they don't care about flashy. What I care about is 3 and out, and I'm getting the ball back.
Give me W's over flash every time. I would rather win ugly than lose pretty.
Absolutely. I would take that any day of the week. And by the way, Myles Garrett, you cannot say anymore that it wasn't about the money or you wanted to win Super Bowls, because your butt went right back to Cleveland.
Yeah, it was definitely all about the money. You can't complain about losing anymore. And I guess that's the thing, right? They come to you and you're just like, you know what, I want to win, and they're like, but what? Hold that thought. What if we give you $40 million? And you're like, yeah, no, I can lose for $40 million.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. That being said, that does get us to the top of the hour. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Roku TV, stay tuned for the next hour. Jay, good to see you, brother. And gonna be back on the show, so it's gonna be tons of fun. Otherwise, we will see you all tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports.